My heart is pounding. Hey guys, I'm Kellsey Trimble, managing editor of Grit Magazine and a queen bumblebee myself. Today, we're with Russell Mullin, and he's going to be talking about his what'd you call it? Bee bucket.
I call it the Beekeeper's bucket.
Beekeeper's bucket.
Yep. So I guess we'll jump right into it. Basically, this is a bucket that I keep my beekeeping supplies in. I've tried some other things in the past, tried the fancy wooden toolkits and stuff like that. Ultimately, I just always ended up throwing my stuff inside of a bucket, and to be honest, it just always got all jumbled up. I have essential oils that I use, they'd always leak. It just kind of turned into a mess. And so I tried to find a better solution for it. And so this is what I came up with, and I thought that I'd share it with you all. There's a lot more in here and on here than what I would generally take to the bee yard any given day. Usually you'll just see me with a hive tool and maybe a smoker, and that's about it. But this kind of covers all the bases, and it, basically you can add as much or as little as you want here. So we'll jump right in. And we'll start with what I would deem kind of the essentials. And so usually I always have my hive tools with me, and so I prefer this one, but these are good too. It all comes up to preference. They're all different kinds of styles. So it just kind of comes up to what you're comfortable using, what's the most useful for you. So
What do they do?
well, you can use they do a lot of things actually. So you generally need these since the bees are always propolising everything. Every little gap that they can find, they're sticking it together kind of like glue. And so in order to actually lift the boxes up, you have to break the seal. And so you actually will stick this in there and break the seal open like that so that you can take the box off. It also helps for moving the frames around inside of the box. And also has a nail puller on it as well. So multi-use. This is definitely something really handy to have around. This style, it's a little different, has a finger on it, you'll notice, and it's actually a frame lifter, and so you'll just stick it in between the frames, and then this rests on one edge, and it'll actually lift the corner of the frame up just to make it easier to pull out.
Nice.
So I'll set those there. And if you all have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments. You know, I like to look at them after the videos are over, and I'll try my best to answer them or find someone that can answer them for you. So throw your comments in there. I love to see them. Or you can just say hi. We love to see that too. So, all right, we'll move on around. Probably the second most used thing is the smoker. And so I rigged up a way to actually mount the smoker on the outside of the bucket. I don't really like putting the smoker inside of the bucket. Just because after I'm done using it, it gets really hot. It is a fire in there, so I was always scared that it was going to melt the plastic or burn something. I usually keep fuel inside of the bucket too, so I wanted to figure out a way to mount it on the outside. I found this nice little clip. There are numerous ways you can put it on there. I found this to be really effective. You can also just like bolt a strap on there. I don't know, there's a lot of ingenious ways to put it on there. So, and let's see, going on around, a lot of times I will, sometimes, especially in early spring or if I need to, I'll do supplemental feeding. So I like to keep a jar. I don't always take the jars out with me, but I would make up a mixture of sugar water in here, and I'd put it in here, and I just poke like 2 holes, and I don't know if y'all can see this on the camera, but generally just poke 2 holes in a mason jar, and just really tiny holes. I mean, I just use like a thumbtack or a very small finishing nail. But that was always leaking all over the place too. It's just always, stuff's leaking all the time. So to combat that, you can do 2 things. One, make sure it doesn't fall over and stays upright. That helps out a lot. Or in this case, I actually just take a second lid that doesn't have holes in it, and you can either put it over the top of this one or on the bottom of it. It doesn't really matter. And then put the ring back on. And then you don't have the leaking problems. Just make sure to take the second one off whenever you put it in the hive, otherwise your bees won't be getting any supplemental feeding if you decide to do that. What do you want to pull out next?
Oh, I want to pull out this feather.
Okay, so
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I don't have a bee brush actually, so I just I just always have had a turkey feather laying around, and I was like, well, I'll just use this. It works really well. I know that there are other beekeepers out there that use feathers as well. I really enjoy it, so I just carry this around with me. It's free, and I like that. And it's a feather, so it looks nice. I'm always a proponent of using what you have if you can. So let's see. Something else that I generally use in the hive are called Beetle Blasters. So basically, and well, I would show you, but it might make a mess. Basically, you just fill this up with some sort of vegetable oil, and then put them in between two frames in your hive, and small hive beetles will either find their way in there, or the bees will chase them into there, and essentially they drown. So in the oil, they can't get back out. So it's a trap. And to fill it, I keep a little squeezy bottle. I like this a lot better than the bottles that the vegetable oil comes in. The spout is a lot smaller. So it's really handy for actually getting in here and filling this up, because you can see it's not very wide. I don't want to make a mess in the hive, because if you get oil spilled in there, it can drown the bees. So it's not a good deal. I just want to drown the pests, not the bees. And this is really great because I can stick it in there upright. This used to always fall over, and I'd end up with a puddle of oil in the bottom of my bucket, and it's always a mess. So this is really great for that. What else? What do you think, Kelsey?
I want to know about these.
Okay.
This.
Okay, so here we have a frame puller. This comes in really handy for actually pulling the frames out of the hive body. It's really great because it gives you a lot better grip. They're definitely a lot firmer. I don't know, I really enjoyed having these around. So yeah, they fit right in there. And I'll just set those there.
Can I put your bee gloves on?
You can if you want to. They're actually pretty comfy. This, I will sometimes put sugar water in this and spray the bees down. This kind of, it's something I use not very often. Usually I just use the smoker, but this will calm them down. They'll spend time, like, it basically just gives them something to do. They'll clean the sugar and stuff off of each other. They won't fly as much. It's a real good way to actually, like, keep them calm, especially when you're doing inspections. Obviously, my gloves, so I keep those on the outside.
It smells smoky too.
That's from the smoker. It smells good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
It's from the smoker?
It's from the smoker. Yeah, I always like it when I get done because I smell
smoky.
I smell smoky. Yeah, I don't know, one of my favorite smells of all time, actually.
I wish they could put it in a candle or something.
Speaking of smokers, one of the things that you'll definitely want to have on hand is a lighter. You'll have a hard time lighting your smoker if you don't have a lighter. I like the ones with the long stem on them. That way you can get down in there and you don't have to worry about burning your fingers as much, especially if you're wearing gloves while you're doing it, because you tend to have less dexterity. So I like to have the long-handled ones. Of course, whatever works for you, though.
We're getting a lot of hellos. A question is, what are your thoughts on gloves, like these kinds of gloves versus other gloves out there?
I imagine they're probably talking about the gloves that may have like the ventilated portions on them. Some people, I think it's just all up to personal preference. My advice would be to try on gloves if you can. Go to a location where you can actually see the gloves in person. Try them on. Make sure that they fit. You don't want to get something that the fingers are too long in, so you want to get proper sizing. It's really, dexterity can be really important when you're working with bees. One, you don't want to squish them, and two, you want to be able to have a good grip on the frames as you're manipulating things. And so I think that can be really important. Sizing is probably the most important thing. These are goatskin gloves, and so the leather is a little thinner. So if you're scared of being stung, which there's pretty much a 100% chance that you will be stung at some time if you're keeping bees. It's pretty much inevitable. But the goatskin's a little thinner, so there's a possibility that they can actually sting you through the gloves. They're just sting resistant, not sting proof. They do have thicker cowhide gloves that I think give you a little less dexterity, but a little more security. Also, I found these to be comfortable. They have the ventilated ones, but if you're wearing a suit that goes all the way down to your wrist anyways, I haven't found the ventilated portion to really be all that helpful. And also, I guess there are gloves that come up to your forearm, but there are also gloves, you can just get regular leather gloves that only come up to the first portion of your wrist. If you have a bee suit that has elastic or has Velcro, then you can just be sure to stuff the glove inside of your bee suit and then cinch that down. And that's kind of nice because it's a little bit cooler.
They're kind of hot right now. I'm going to take them off. It's getting toasty.
Yes, being in a bee suit is pretty toasty, period. They do have different styles of bee suits as well, which I'll pull mine out here in a minute.
Is this a hair clip?
That is basically not a hair clip.
Oh, it's not a hair clip. It is not a hair clip, folks.
It's a queen clip, so it's close.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's a queen clip, so it's still for me.
Yes, so So basically this is a way to catch the queen if you need to capture her off of the frame for any reason, and it will hold her securely while you're working. Say that you don't want to, you want to move her, or you don't want to kill her, or you need to, for example.
Do you have a queen?
No, I don't have a queen. Just you today. So you can mark the queens as well. That's what these slots are in here for. So basically this will hold the queen in a still state. There's room in here for her to move around, but this will give you a place to actually go in there and mark the queen if you so choose to do that.
Oh, wow.
And that just lets you know like what year the queen was put in there. So each year they come out with a different color of mark.
Interesting.
Yep.
You don't write like a tiny little 6 on there or something?
No, that'd be pretty tough. Just a dot.
Oh, okay.
It also helps you spot the queen as well. I think this is probably one of the most important things that I keep in my Beekeeper's bucket, and this is just a notebook. Well,
we lost the pencil.
Yeah, I lost a pencil. There's usually a pencil in here, but this is what I do to take notes. And so if you have, well, even if you just have one hive, it can be hard to keep track of the days that you did things on, and it can be really important, especially if, say, you're waiting for a new queen to emerge. If you have, certain things on a time schedule that you're wanting to look at, it can be really important to know and be able to look back. So generally I'll write them down in the notebook, and then I move them over to a electronic database so that I can search it a little easier, like an Excel document.
A computer, okay.
Yeah, like a journal log, basically. So very important to keep notes, in my opinion. There are, other people who are a little more laid back about it, which is totally cool too. It's just all about your preference. So let's see, I also keep a baggie, and this is just in case, well, you never know when you might need a baggie, so bags are really, it could be...
Definitely a must.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, these are nice because, for example, if I wanted to do like a baggie feeding, I could put sugar water in here. I could take a really sharp knife or a razor blade and make very small, like 1-inch slits on the top of it and lay it on top. So that's an alternative feeding method. Also, say if I'm cutting comb off or I notice something that doesn't look quite right, like I get into some drone cells that have varroa mites and stuff, I don't want to put that back into the hive. So I'll take that stuff that I take out and actually put it in the baggie, and then I'll freeze it before disposing of it. And that's just to try and keep my pest load as low as possible. So baggies are good. You can also use jars or anything else. So I keep... sometimes I'll take some needle nose pliers out there, and this is just in case I need to pull staples or pull nails. If I need to bend some pieces of metal, say if I'm making like a queen cage or something like that, it also has wire cutters on it, so these are really handy sometimes. And I have just a really cheap magnifying glass. I got this for less than $1. And I use this during frame inspections. So basically, if I'm pulling frames out and I'm looking for things, especially eggs, eggs can be very difficult to spot sometimes. They're very tiny. And so just having a little extra magnification can really help when it comes to actually being able to see the eggs. You don't need anything super crazy. One thing that you want to be careful of if you are using magnifying glass to look for eggs and other things is that you don't, and this is serious, that you don't accidentally burn the bees or the eggs from the sun, because I know that you all are probably familiar with using magnifying glass to catch things on fire. Well, that same premise can work on your frame, so just be mindful if you're using magnifying glass not to focus.
Don't set your bees on fire.
Yeah, don't set, that would be a bad deal. So, let's see.
Lori says, hi guys, great info.
Hi Lori, thank you
Hello.
very much. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, thumbs up to you as well. So, yeah, we hope that you take something away from this, and if you have any advice of your own, throw it down on there, because there are so many different ways to that you can take care of bees. So people have all different kinds of methodologies, shortcuts, and just tips and tricks. So if you're a beekeeper out there and you have something to share, put it in the comments. I'm sure that other people watching would definitely be really excited to hear about that.
Hashtag Bee Week.
Oh, and you can even throw hashtag Bee Week on there. I guess that's our hashtag for everything Bee Week themed, so this is our Bee Week. So,
Hashtag Bee Week.
Hashtag Bee Week. All right. Oh, okay. You can't have any sort of toolkit without duct tape.
Duct tape.
So it can be any color duct tape. I just use white because, well, pretty much everything in beekeeping is white, and I like to keep it looking nice. But this is in case I get a hole in my suit, which can happen from time to time. That way I can do some pretty quick in-field fixes. Also, if I need to use duct tape for anything on the hive, if I need to patch a hole, something like that, even if it's just temporarily, then that's there. And I have my Sharpie. I use this for marking frames in case I need to put notes on there, like where a queen cell is, or where I found something, what day I found it. It's good to have those kind of notes so you can get to it really quickly.
Adrian said, thanks for sharing the toolkit. I'm a new beekeeper and I love seeing what other people carry out to their bees.
Oh, very, very welcome. Adrian? Is that your name? Yeah. Well, thanks for the comment, Adrian. And if anyone else wants to chime in, please do. We love hearing from you. So, okay, and now here I have a collection of essential oils. So I have clove oil, which is actually utilized as a deterrent. Sometimes I'll put it on my facial hair, actually. For some reason, the bees really dislike my facial hair. I think it has something to do with bees disliking dark colored hair in the first place. It's kind of like a defense mechanism of theirs. They really hone in on it. So I've been stung on my chin multiple times in the same place too. I don't know why. So yeah, they just love kissing me right there. So,
It's a little kiss.
Yeah.
It's not a sting, it's a kiss.
yeah, I haven't been stung on my face since I started using clove oil. I've also made sure to leave my veil on.
That's probably the number one thing.
That's probably the number one
Leave
thing.
that on.
So I also will use lemongrass oil, and this is just an attractant. It's very similar to a pheromone that they give off that basically helps them hone in on where to go. It kind of emulates that scent, the Nasonog pheromone.
I like to smell everything, so.
You can also use lemongrass oil in your swarm traps, so it helps lure them in. And I also use wintergreen oil, and basically this is in the case if your bees are suffering from things like tracheomites or something like that. You can just put a very small amount, probably I just use maybe less than a drop for a quart of sugar water, and very dilute, and I'll put it in there, and then as the bees eat the sugar water, then it helps with the tracheomites. All right. And the last thing I have out here, sometimes I'll take scissors, just kind of depends. Sometimes I like to use burlap in the smoker, and so this is basically just to cut the burlap into a size that I need. I can, of course, do that ahead of time. I don't always remember to, and I don't always take the scissors out there with me, but they are handy to have sometimes. Next, I would just say the bucket period is really nice because sometimes I like to sit down when I'm working. And,
Just sometimes.
Just sometimes. And this makes a really good seat, so that's kind of an added bonus on that. So having the lid, I think, is pretty important, and that's why having this is actually a bucket apron that was meant for garden tools, and so this is a Garden Boss from Bucket Boss. And the thing that I really like about this particular one is that it just has the belt around the lip here. It doesn't go inside, and so you can see some of the bucket aprons, they go all the way around the lip and inside of the bucket. Well, if they do that, then it's a lot harder to get the lid on there. And so for me, I wanted to be able to put the lid on there easily, take it off easily. So the fact that this only is on the outside is a big feature to me. That's really helpful.
2 questions.
All right.
One of them is where is the best place to get them?
Okay.
And then the other one is if you use the same brand of essential oils.
Okay. So the best place to get what? Get the essential oils?
Your kit.
Oh, okay. Well, this is kind of a modge podge of all different kinds of places where I got things. So I would say either shop around online is a really great place to look.
Take a screenshot of the video and kind of look at what.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
So the smokers from Daydant, the bucket I just got at a big box store, just a plain white utility bucket. You can use any bucket, Home Depot, Lowe's, Tractor Supply. Any 5-gallon bucket will work. This bucket apron came from Bucket Boss, and so they have a whole line of these from everything from like automotive tools to, in this case, gardening, which worked out really, really well for my beekeeping supplies. The essential oils kind of picked up. I prefer using now essential oils or something that is good quality essential oils, but I don't know, it doesn't have to break the bank either. It's kind of up to you. If you want to use organic essential oils, then you can definitely do that.
I'd say definitely use 100% therapeutic grade is what I would.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, and then, let's see. I have my bee suit in here and my veil all in one. And so that just tucks in there nicely. You gonna put that on?
Yep. 1 minute.
We'll be right back.
And then a lot of times you'll be able to find fuel just laying around. You can use dry grass, pine needles, depending on what part of the country you live in. I happen to have a lot of bales of straw, so I'll use a lot of straw. You can use pine shavings, which you can generally get for free. If you go to like a cabinet shop, just be sure that if you are using wood shavings that they're not treated with anything. That's kind of a pretty big deal. You don't want to use anything that came off of stuff with paint or was pressure treated or anything like that. So it could be harmful for the bees. Sometimes I'll just keep some of this in a bag so that it stays dry, doesn't soak up the humidity, and in the case that, say, it rained the day before, the grass is wet or I can't find any dry grass around, then I have this around to utilize. And also, as a backup, you can use burlap, which makes a really good smoker fuel. And so you can sometimes find this at like feed stores. Maybe check your coffee shops, local coffee shops. They may have coffee beans that came in bags like this. If you eat a lot of rice, you could always pick up like the mega 50-pound bags of rice. A lot of times they come in burlap sacks. Or you can even go to places like maybe Joann Fabrics or some other fabric store, and you can generally get it pretty inexpensively by the yard. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 a yard, which can be a lot less expensive. Be sure to get the natural kind, kind that doesn't have any sort of like dyes and stuff in it if you can. And yeah, it's really pretty inexpensive fuel source. So if you have to buy fuel for it. And I think that is all.
I checked your pockets. You don't have anything in them.
Yeah, I try to take it all out.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Sometimes
Well, you nailed it. So.
Well, sometimes I have pocket knives in there.
So
okay.
how do you typically wash your bee suit? Do you have to use a specific soap?
Honestly, I don't wash my bee suit.
Don't wash your bee suit.
I don't know.
That's the best answer.
Don't wash it.
It's probably a good idea to wash it. In fact, I probably should.
Really?
Yeah, maybe
It starts to smell more natural.
Yeah, but bees are pretty sensitive to smell, and I imagine maybe body odor isn't the best thing for them. So,
That's probably a good idea.
yeah, I don't know. You could let me know, actually. So if anyone has experience washing their bee suit, leave it in the comments. I'd love to read it. Personally, I'd probably just throw it in the wash as is. I'd take the veil off of it, of course.
Non-scented.
Yeah, but yeah, the rest of it, I think I'd just throw on a regular cycle and let her go. Maybe a non-scented, unscented laundry detergent. I don't think I'd want anything like that was very strongly scented on my bee suit, so
Yeah.
just use a non-scented detergent. Any other questions?
Any beekeeping apps?
Not that I use. Maybe there are. I don't generally take my phone out to the.
That's a great answer too, though.
Yeah, well-
You really wouldn't want to.
Well, I mean, I think that there probably are some great beekeeping apps, and maybe I'll look into that actually. Especially as far as like logging information, I think that could be
that's a
really handy.
beekeeping app.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
look it up. Yeah, again, if any of you know of really good beekeeping apps, throw them in the comments because that'd be a great thing to share with the community and something I'd be interested in looking into as well. Right now, I generally just use my notebook. I can write with my gloves on, and so I can do it while I'm there with the hive before I forget everything that I just saw in the hive. And then I put it down in an electronic format afterward. But if I had a phone, then I probably would just put it in like a beekeeping journal. Yeah, let me know. I'd be happy to hear of any apps out there.
Lots of thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, this is I don't know, I'm sure that there are a lot of beekeepers watching right now. I'd love to hear your advice, tools that you found useful, tips, tricks, anything. Yeah, anything. I don't know.
Anything.
Yeah, anything. Love to hear from you. If there are any questions out there, I'll get on there later. I like to usually go through and answer as many as I can. And I guess that's all. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Russell Mullin with Mother Earth News.
I'm Kellsey Trimble.
And we'll see you all next time.